say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family amongst lords of consciousness. I am the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, live here on the Fringe FM. I'm live on YouTube. Like I look like a blurry vision right now. Can't help it. But anyways, we're live on TalkStream Live. Also, you can listen there. The Paranormal Radio app, Live 365, tune in, and of course at fringe.fm. Tonight we're going to continue our discussion on magical tatwas and using magical tools. And I mean, I don't think I'm breaking any laws by doing this research. You know, most people, what they do is they read a book and then they get online and show you the content as if they made it, right? Or they put their spin on it, which is nice sometimes to help to understand it. But what we're going to do is, because there's a text about these tatwas that's so freaking expensive, man. I don't know why it's expensive as it is, but it is. So I thought that it would be helpful if we kind of get into it. Let me see if I can clear this up a little bit. Every day, depending on the lighting, like I'm good at technical stuff, but I suck at like green screen stuff. So I'm thinking about taking it down and just putting a little square there. But so what's up, Word Salad? Michael Domek. He said, what's up, Roop? Yeah, that's how you know you're my buddy, when people start calling me Roop, because that's what everybody called me growing up too. Nobody called me Joe or Joseph or anything like that. So I figured we'd get into this book that I happen to have the PDF for, because the book itself is so freaking expensive. But it really gets into how to use the tatwas, right? And we've got at least 2 or 3 newer orders for the tatwa deck at the Fringe store. So, and when I release my version of the audios, I still think it's important that people understand, like how to use these cards, because these cards will train you on how to scry with anything, whether it's tarot cards or, you can do crystals or whatever you use to scry, artwork, Renaissance art. If you look at Renaissance art, they definitely made that art for you to sit in front of and, like, in my opinion, and scry into. Obviously they did, right? Because it's packed full of symbols. Especially if you, is the book over 25 years old? No, but it's for research, so it's fair use. And if it's not, what are they going to do? They're going to slap me on the wrist? It's just research. So, yeah. Anytime you want to call into, it's 501-777-5631. That's the call-in number. So just remember that when we do things to explore consciousness practically, we don't have to, there's many ways to do it. Like, we have to recap this sometimes. There's meditation, which if you're living around where I'm living, I don't know if the cicadas are out where you're at, but they're out where I'm at. And it's freaking cool to go outside and just find a silent spot and meditate and, like, listen to those things just kind of drone into your brain. It's I'm not sure what frequency they're putting out though. But anyways, let's get into this, because we're eating up time. Also, after the broadcast, I think tonight, for the late show, Jess Rogi's going to be on. So she's back. I'm pretty sure she's going to be on tonight. I think she texted me and said she was, but she's back on the station. So she'll be on the radio station after this, but you can go check out her YouTube channel too, at Escape the Simulation. Make sure you go check that out. And Shift Happens and all the cool podcasts and shows that we have on here. Only the live people like me, Jess, and Gigi, and Dave, we're the coolest people here, though. You know that, right? All right. So this book, you can look it up. I'll leave a link to it in the video. It's expensive, but it comes with its own deck, and I don't like the deck that it comes with. I used to have it, and the reason why I don't like it is because it outlines the center shapes inside of the Tattwa cards. So when it outlines the shapes, it kind of takes away, in my opinion, I'm sure they had their reasons, but it takes away from the flashing effect of the card when you're gazing into it. So if you want to get your own deck, you can at the Fringe FM store. There's a deck there we have for $34. They're print to order, so you can ask the people that have ordered it. It takes sometimes like 6 weeks to get them. I think Barefoot or somebody, I'm pretty sure it was Barefoot, ordered like 3 to 6 decks, and she's given some away, which is really cool, and sent me pictures and all kinds of stuff. Thank you so much for that. I think we still got to do a tarot reading too. But you can check out all that stuff that I have too, all the audios and the memberships at the Patreon, and then all the stuff at the store at thefringe.fm. All right. So each card represents an element, right? I don't have time to, I didn't have time to pull up the cards, but you know what they look like, right? So you have the fire card that it has the red triangle. Then you have the water card that has the moon crescent. Then you have the air card that has the blue circle. And then you have the earth card that has the yellow square. Now, you can buy these cards with black and white backs, which I'm working on that too, but they're more effective if you have a flashing color, in my opinion, that's surrounding the shape. And then once you get good at the basic shapes, this is why, like in the audio format, I have a thing called the magical eye, where you learn to use your power of visualization, but you just focus on certain shapes and symbols. And some of these are actually basic geometric symbols or elemental symbols or planetary glyphs. So it's good, even if you want to make your own, just make your own symbols, the elements, the planets, any symbols you want, astrological symbols. If you can make them with like flashing colors, that's even cooler, that correspond with the element that they correspond with. And then as you learn to use your your ability to focus and use your magical eyes. That's what I call it, but it's just really your ability to go into a trance state and focus. You'll pick up on the energies of each of these symbols because it'll go into your psyche. That goes into that praxis place where the placebo exists, that taps into the collective, which has been here since the beginning of time. And pretty much the collective understands all these shapes. That's why the egregores are so powerful. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So he goes on. Let me tell you who wrote this first off. Okay. This is called The Magical Tattwas, which is a little different than what we've been reading before. And this is from, who is it? It's John Mumford, Dr. John Mumford, I think. Yeah. Llewellyn put this out. And it's a pretty cool text. You could check it out while you're listening right now if you want to. And, I mean, we're not going to go over the whole book. It's pretty extensive, but it's worth it. I mean, the book is worth it. I don't think the deck is, but the book is. All right, let's go over the 5 elements here real quick. 4 or 5, whatever. Then you have, I forgot to mention, you have the Akash symbol, which is ether or spirit, or it's the symbol of the oval or the egg. So he says, Coral Weschke and I have been experimenting with the flashing color magical Tattwa cards for several years. The deck and the system are finally based upon 19th century documents used in the curriculum of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The magical Tattwa cards have indeed fulfilled their promise of being a powerful tool. And although the geometrical shapes of the Tattwas, or primordial elements of Samkhya Hindu philosophy, that's philosophy that's 2,500 years old, have long since become an integral part of the Western tradition. The flashing colors and their divinatory aspects have never before, to our knowledge, been publicly available as a printed deck. Well, they are now, sir. They're everywhere. Or indeed as the complete integral system. So he goes on to talk about the information that he got from Israel Regardie, including a paper discussing the intricate color codings, which is, he says, is culling this information from Regardie's masterly compendium allows us to span a century of established experience with the Tattwa system. So for an independent and contemporary pagan Wiccan use of the Tattwa symbols, I recommend you consult Adain McCoy's excellent new book, Making Magic. So I guess if you're into Wicca, that's a book you need to get. So that he's just thanking people. So some 2,500 years ago, an Indian philosopher called Kapila formalized a doctrine explaining the origins of the universe and all its beings. And his concepts included the 5 elements, theories, and predated Aristotle and Plato. So in Hermetics, we believe that, for the most part, that the mysteries of the elements, which is the first stage of like the Hermetic mysteries, you have elemental and magic, planetary and alchemy, astrology and starlight, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. So we think that the elemental part goes back to the Ptolemaic or whatever, the Greek Egyptian period, and that's where it came from Aristotle and Plato. But he's saying that it actually it's older than that. It goes back to Kapila, which formalized a doctrine explaining the origins of the universe. His concepts included the 5 elements, and his philosophy is known as Samkhya, and it became one of the 6 schools of classical Indian philosophy. The implications of Samkhya philosophy had far-reaching consequences, including an influence on Buddhist metaphysical thought and Greek philosophy, as well as extending through to the European Middle Ages via the alchemists. Traces of Samkhya philosophy emerge in such modern schools as the Rosicrucians, the Gurdjieff groups, and Freemasonry. Pure, undifferentiated consciousness, or what they call Purusha, has always existed. Consciousness was without beginning and therefore without end, and eternally radiating through limitless reaches of space and eons of time. Consciousness reflects and expresses itself through an opposite principle or a consort or energy, which is Prakrit in Tantra. And I could be pronouncing these Indian words wrong. Well, that's just how I pronounce them. So Please be very aware that I'm going to vastly oversimplify Samkhya. I will use a few Sanskrit words as possible, skipping whole portions of the Samkhyan cosmogony and ontogeny will allow us to directly discuss the 5 elemental theory. So number 1, consciousness or witnesses. This is the theory. Number 2, energy or dynamices, changing its rate of vibration to manifest matter. This matter, or gradients of energy, begets from itself cosmic mind, which is called Mahat, which in turn precipitates individual mind as intelligence. Number 3, buddhi. Number 4, ego, or ahamkara. You know, it's crazy. Every time I read more occult texts, I see these words in like video games and stuff. So I was just earlier spending some time with my son playing Destiny 2. That's that Cosmogen story. And they have dragons in that game called Ahamkara dragons. All right. Anyways, number 5, conscious and unconscious, or the manas, or which are the functions of individualized in a body, or kosha. And so he says, so far I have ignored 20 other ingredients. Thank God for that, right? Samkhya is translated as to enumerate categories or sometimes simplify 25, since there are exactly 25 classifiable differentiations out of which everything is formed. So when you get these decks, you'll see it's the same thing, right? Like, I don't want to overcomplicate things. So you have let's just say you have the 4 elements, or in this case, you got 5. Right. And once you study the main element, and then you'll get into learning about water, like let's say kind of like what I talked about in tarot. So the King of Wands tarot card is like fire of fire, but that Tattwa card would just be fire. But the Queen of Wands would be water of fire. And there's a Tattwa card that corresponds with that too. So it's the fire symbol with the little crescent glyph inside of it. So as you get more advanced at scrying, instead of using one symbol, you can peer into like 2, maybe 3 symbols. 3 is a lot, but 2, you know. So that's where he gets the 25 different combinations from. So he's stating to this philosophy, there's 25 different combinations out of which everything in matter is formed. Existence divides into 2 coexistent principles, consciousness, purasha, and energy, prakrit. Consciousness and energy are codependent because consciousness is sterile or lame, and energy is blind. But energy always implies matter, which is what energy becomes when it expresses its dynamism. Mind is not consciousness, but merely energy, and therefore a rarefied subcategory of matter. Energy has to condense out of itself 5 elements that act as the building blocks of all material manifestation and various permutations and combinations. These 5 elements, all emerging from the first element, which is ether, are in descending order: ether, air, fire, water, and earth. The brilliance of this Indian classification of elements is that it spans eternity as a quick method of classifying all manifest matter. This is not the periodic table of elements of Western physics and chemistry with gaps, but a classification of matter by its state. It's a more simplified, bigger categorical state of matter. So he says, we'll distinguish between these 2 by an initial capital in the case of the element that is a state of matter. So ether, which is, I probably should have had a picture of these cards that I could pop up for you, but imagine let's just say a white card in this instance with a black egg-shaped oval, which is the card of ether. Ether is the element, not the hospital anesthetic, which is the womb out of which the other elements emerge. Ether is the container of all states of matter and the source of their creation. Ether is also those states of matter that manifest in electromagnetic, gravitational, and nuclear energies. So out of the ether comes electricity, magnetism, gravitational forces, which is all kind of the same thing, and nuclear energies. The element of air is all gaseous manifestations. The element of fire is incandescent, incendiary in all thermal states. The element of water is the principle of fluidity, liquidity, and flowing substances. And the element of earth is anything demonstrating solidarity and cohesiveness. Kind of like Jimmy Hoffa used to say, solidarity. We need solidarity. That's earth. These 5 elements are collectively called the tatwas, or those things possessed of thatness. And everything we can perceive through smelling, tasting, seeing, touching, and hearing is compounded of one or more of these 5 elements. My Ayurvedic teacher, Dr. Swami, how does he say this? Shankardev Saraswati. Dr. Swami Shankardev Saraswati has aligned the 5 elements with the forces of Western physics. Okay, so he's putting a little bit more here. So this is, are you taking notes? Just talking about the elements, it gets complicated enough, doesn't it? What's up, Chris? What's up, Sudi? What's up, Stinking, what is that? Syndicon? Okay. Sorry, I hope I don't. Well, who's the author of this shopping list? And Dr. John Mumford, right? So the mechanical stuff, the energies that they correspond with too, okay? So earth is mechanical energy, water is chemical energy, fire is thermal energy, and air is electrical energy, and ether is nuclear energy. I'm telling you guys, like, you think the Western mystery systems are just simple, but they're not. When you go through each element, you're supposed to spend, according to Liam Thomas Christopher, and I think he's right, you're supposed to spend at least 6 months focusing on one element at a time, learning all about that element, because it also has metaphysical principles too, right? Because earth is like your physical world, water is your I guess you could say the unconscious and your dream world and your emotions. Fire is your desires, passions, and will, and air is intellect, messages in the mind. And then, of course, you have spirit. But it has all these other principles too. And there's thermal principles to each one too. I know. It's a lot. But I figured once I throw all this stuff at you, you might be a little bit more interested. So every substance in the world is made up of 5 elements and requires the 5 elements for its growth. So, for example, a carrot requires earth as its foundation, water is the cohesive factor which holds it together, and fire enables it to ripen and mature, and air makes it grow, and ether gives it the space to manifest. That's exactly right. Just like you're just like a plant. You need all 5 elements yourself to balance out and grow and be fruitful and all this other stuff. So he says, I'll give a simple analogy of the interaction of the tatwas. Within the vastness of space, ether, gas condenses into clouds in the air. Lightning bolts fly forth with fire, and rain, which is water, deluges down, forming rivulets upon the land, earth. Such an analogy is reminiscent of the biologist's water cycle and also encompasses the ecosphere, or living space of the planet Earth, which we treat like dirt, by the way. So events in human life follow a similar natural cycle, ever repeating, of transformational phases involving the elements dancing in combinations. It is upon this basis that divination using the Tattwa deck becomes possible. Let us put the elements and their primary correspondences into a conceptual framework. All right, so I'm going to show this for the video people, because I think I probably should at this point. This is the lesson, and this is Dr. John Mumford's lesson in the elements. Hopefully, can y'all still see that? I hope you can. So the involutionary scale from subtle descending to gross. And this is so he has columns here: the element, the manifest state of the element, the symbol, and the shape. So ether manifests stellar space, the symbol is the cosmic egg, and the shape is oval. The element of air manifests gaseous vapors, the symbol is a sphere or a circle, or the symbol is a sphere and the shape is a circle. Fire manifests incandescence, the symbol is a tetrahedron, and the shape is an equilateral triangle. Water, its manifest state, is fluid precipitation. The symbol is the crescent moon, and the shape is a crescent. And earth, of course, is earth. The manifest state is congealment, or when liquid comes into, I guess you could say when everything comes into solidarity. The symbol is the cube, and the shape is the square. And that's descending, okay? So here's the evolutionary scale from gross ascending to subtle. This is a lot of overkill of info, but and by the way, like if you actually go through the mysteries and go through each element, you'll pick up on all this stuff. You won't just have to read a book and comprehend it in your mind. Like you'll start getting downloads of this stuff, you know. So the element of ether, shape is oval. It's the state of the atmosphere. The element of air is the shape of a circle, is a state of vaporization. The element of fire is a triangle, which is spontaneous combustion. Water, which is the crescent, and it's moisture. And the earth, which is square and compactness. Now, if you read Henry Cornelius Agrippa's book about the occult philosophy, which is a good book. I think if you want to get into the occult, you should read it because it basically teaches occult philosophy. He talks about this transformational states of each element and how it transforms into certain things. Like ice, frozen earth is frost, water and water, or fluid, which is the dew, and steam, fire, and hot vapor is the mist, and it also corresponds with the rising sun, which is something else that you see in occult literature, right? And then I don't want to get into the involutionary circle because that's too much for the mind at the moment. Ooh, I got him. All right. So each element has come to be associated with a power center or chakra in the body, and each element is composed of sub-elements involving the other elements. So ether or akasha, the fifth element, which is comparable with the European alchemist quintessence, is symbolized by a black or indigo oval. Akash is the tatwa quality associated with Vishuddha. There's Vishuddha chakra located at the throat. Its manifestation is sound vibration, or shabda, and yet it is not sound. Neither ether nor quintessence are exact equivalents to akasha. Akasha is a form of reality described as dimensionless, all-pervading space, the distance between objects and the space with which the dance of existence may be performed. I wonder if that's the same thing like that Carl Jung talks about as the pleroma. You remember that? We were doing the 7 sermons yesterday. Or the pleroma. I feel like a professor. We should have homework assignments, right? And quizzes. So the root of akasha is kas, meaning to shine or to appear. Vyasa Basayam mentions infinitude and indivisibility as properties of akasha. The Hindu philosophical implication of akasha predates Greek atomistic physics and is a cogent concept, equitable with current astronomical cosmogony. I mean, that's a lot of fancy words to say, hey, this stuff predates the Greek philosophy of the Ptolemy periods of the elements and the mystery schools. So Lucretius, from 94 to 55 BC, was the greatest Roman apologist of the Epicureans, and his hexameter poem on the nature of things makes 2 statements which approach the Indian concept of akasha. Number 1, wherever I step, I am the center of the universe, which implies infinitude. And number 2, Nothing comes out of nothing, which implies eternity. All right. So here's what they're called if you get the cards, okay? So air, the circle, the blue circle, is called Vayu, which is the fourth element, which is symbolized by a circle or endless motion, and is the tatwa of Anahata chakra, located at the heart region. Vayu is the principle of movement and comes from the Sanskrit root meaning to blow. Vayu manifests as the gaseous and vaporous states of matter. Its sensory avenue is touch or sparsa, and it carries the sound from ether. Therefore, Vayu can be heard and felt. And if it corresponds with the heart region, this is why you'll see a lot of times when you look at the tree of life, that Tifereth, where the heart region is on the tree of life, will have the colors of the element of air there too. It's in the, for instance, Crowley's deck will carry those colors. But the colors aren't the same in the tatwas. They're all kind of backwards, you know. So it would have been nice if they all talked and got their shit together and used the same colors, but sometimes they don't. So fire, the triangle, that's called Tejas. The third element is symbolized by a red triangle or tetrahedron. In Western alchemy, the symbol for fire is always a triangle with the apex pointing up. In yoga, it may be drawn with the apex pointing down, or the trikona or yoni triangle, which is found in Manipura chakra just above the navel. Tejas comes from the Sanskrit root meaning sharp or pointed flames. Tejas is the element manifesting as all thermal activity, heat, illumination, from incandescence and transformation. It holds the atoms of form or shape, which is also called a rupa, and therefore can be seen, felt, and heard. You can see the fire, feel the heat of its flames, and hear the crackling of the combustion as fire expands. Now you understand, right? I'm going to tell you guys something about path working because this is a lot of info. Water, which is called apas or apis, however you want to say it. Over here in the West, we say it however we read it. So this is the second element symbolized by a silver crescent and related to Swadhisthana, the Swadhisthana chakra, or the psychic center below the navel. In the body, apas rules from the knees to the hips, and the Sanskrit root ap or ap means water, which is to be understood as the principle of liquid and fluid states. Contraction, evaporation, and taste, which is rasa, are inseparable qualities of water. Consider the tongue, which cannot have its gustation or taste bud receptors. Fire without saliva or fluid present in the mouth. I know that's gross, but it's true. And water can be heard, felt, seen, and tasted. Earth, Prithivi, the first element is symbolized by a yellow square or cube and is associated with the Muladhara chakra. I can never say those chakra words right, which is the psychic center located on the pelvic floor and characterized by cohesion and solidarity. Prithivi is from the Sanskrit meaning extended, and its special sensory avenue is smell or gandha, so the element earth can be detected by all five senses. In this discussion, we have concentrated upon the gross elements. These gross elements are preceded by five subtle elements, which represent the essence of the atomic vibration containing the seed of sound, touch, vision, taste, and smell. As well as the Samkhya evolutionary scheme for sentience contains the substrate for five avenues of action and the matrix for the appearance of the five facilities for perception. Ooh, that's a lot. So, in these elements, not only do they have metaphysical principles and life principles that you have to understand, but they also correspond with many different things like temperatures, sensories, cosmological things, chakras, manifestations, all these different things that you'll learn because it's just like information overload. But what I'm saying is before I get all over the place is when you focus on a tatwa symbol, You'll get downloads. Probably won't even need to read a book to understand all this stuff, unless you want to know what the Hindu and the Western names for all this stuff is. Or better yet, which is something that we're going to be doing. If you focus into a Tattwa symbol and you do a path working, and say you have someone that has a good voice that can help you, right? A couple other people I know that do this too. And as you listen to the audio or the path working and go into the element and go on, let's just say you go on this visualization journey, all this stuff will begin to download into the mind. You'll kind of take it in and learn it better, you know. Word salad says Tejas is Texas and it's hot. Yeah, that's where they get the name from, I would imagine. Or at least maybe. I just walked in on number 3, booty. Sorry about that. Samkhya is spelled Samkhya, which is a 2,500-year-old theory that explains all aspects of creation and manifestation. That includes concepts cognate with subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, and compounds, as well as offering explanations of organic and inorganic modalities. For a more complete explanation of Samkhya, consult The Awakening Life Force by Swami Rajarshi Muni. Here, I'm going to put that book, because I know you're asking, Chris, in the chat here, if it'll let me. I'm sure all the stuff, too, is probably available in PDFs, you know. But I know a lot of people like to have physical books. To understand how each gross element is compounded with the subtle tanmatras, or sensory elements, we could make a diagram. And there's a specific order in which the 5 subtle primary elements devolve. They appear neither simultaneously nor in random order. First, sound, or the word, I guess you could say, is originated. Then comes touch, then color or form, and finally smell, all in that order. Each succeeding element retains the quality or qualities of the preceding ones. So it's kind of like the tarot too. So people don't know that about the tarot, but if you look at them on the tree of life, let's just not the number cards, but the arcana, as they kind of flower out. You could even look at them as spiraling out. So each card that goes down into the further from the top down, or from Kether down, kind of has the same concepts, or I guess that concept was already within the previous card. Flowers out to the next card. It's pretty complex, actually, but beautiful. So each succeeding element retains the quality or qualities of the preceding ones, and this means that the later the appearance, the more qualities a subtle primary element has. Accordingly, sound has the solitary quality of sound. Touch possesses 2 qualities, touch and sound. Color or form contains 3 qualities, color, form, touch, and sound. Likewise, taste has 4 qualities, and smell has all 5 qualities. That is from the book Swami Rajarshi Muni, Awakening the Life Force. An intuitive feel for this concept may be increased if I use the ultimate representation shapes of the gross tatwas, or the elements with the subtle tanmatras. In examining the chart, it becomes apparent that Earth represents or symbolizes the most concrete, tangible aspects of the material world, simply because Earth engages all of our external sensory organs. I'm going to show you this glyph so you can understand this a little better. And then I'll try to make it out into like an audio thing if I can, okay? All right, so so we have a square here. We're ether, and it's just, he's got sound. It's just a big square, a big space. And then when it keeps going, let's just say keeps going into air, now you have sound and touch. And then air into fire, you have sound, form, and touch, and then fire into water, which is taste, sound, touch, and form, and then water into earth, which is smell, sound, touch, form, and taste. So you can see that these all have like the main aspects here, but then they also kind of flower out to these other aspects, especially earth. The main aspect is smell, but it flowers out to these other aspects too. Says we are now approaching the final elemental building block phase. The Samkhya scheme permits a totally coherent and consistent worldview which explains the phenomenal universe. The system works well for an Indian perspective, in which the idea of cooperating with nature takes precedence over the Western idea of conquering nature. If you want to conquer the natural world, then you definitely need an approach based on Western science. For the Indians, conquering the self was the preeminent ideal. So here's the shapes too. So you've got the oval, which it shows the ether or the sound, and then air, which shows the circle, which is sound and touch, and then fire, which is form, sound, and touch, and it shows the triangle. And then you have the crescent, which is form, touch, sound, and taste, which is water. And then earth has smell in the the square, and then taste, form, touch, and sound around it. So each of the 5 generic gross elements is first divided into 2 equal halves. Then 1/2 of each element is further split into 4 equal parts and added to the undivided half of each remaining element. Thus, in each newly differentiated gross element, there will be part of all 5 original generic elements gross in specific proportion. Did you get all that? So I'm hoping that like you guys understand now why path working is so important. So why spending time on, because like it's not Hogwarts School of Magic where you learn, spell incantations with a wand, right? So each element that you learned has a backstory. It has a history. It has symbols that correspond with it. It has functions, tatwa cards, and tarot cards, and all the stuff that happens in your life, and the psychic nature and the physical nature of the element, and all these things. It's a crazy experience. So Sudi asked, "What's has your experience been with these cards?" You mentioned download. Sorry if you've already talked about this. I came in late. Well, that's what these cards are for. Exactly what they're for. So, as a ceremonial magician and void walker, I guess you could say, if let's say I'm trying to understand about something I don't comprehend about Earth in my life. So, let me just give you the rundown here. Let's say I have a problem in my life. So I think, which element does this correspond with? Mainly could be Earth. A pattern keeps repeating in my life, right, of issues. I could go to a therapist and they're going to tell me the cause and effect of the issues. And then, say talking about it's going to heal it, which is part of the process. Or I could break out a tatwa card, like say the element of earth, scry into it, and record. At the same time as I'm scrying, though, I'm using Carl Jung's active imagination too. So I'm using the Golden Dawn system of flashing colors along with active imagination methods of Carl Jung as I'm going into this card. And as these visions come to me as I go into the card, I'll write down all of the stuff that I, experienced. Because if you're in deep enough trance, when you come out of the vision, it will fade away like a dream. So as soon as you come out, you need to write it down. And what'll happen is, I know this is going to sound crazy, but it works. So what'll happen is, as you scry into the card, you'll run into visions and things that are specifically for you. Using both Eastern and Western methods. So the Eastern method of scrying into the egregore of the element, and the Western methods of testing and writing down the visualizations that you see. So let's say you run into an entity, you test it, And after you test it, and we'll talk about all this testing and stuff later, you test the spirit, right? And after you test it, it doesn't pass the test. Well, then there might be your block right there. That you could go back into your visions and say, why do I keep running into these, things that are messing with me, that when I test them with the symbols that I was trained to test them with, they're not responding, or enough of the visions could actually begin to show you the deeper nature of the problem and help you heal, right? If you want me to be totally honest with you, I think if you spent a year on each element, which is a lot, I know that's a lot, but if you spent a year on each element, your whole freaking life would change. You would change. You would transform, for sure. You would alchemize. You would at least do the very beginning stages of the process before you get into the planetary stuff, but you would alchemize. So I can tell you from full confidence that these methods of conscious exploration are, they work. And my experiences with them, if you want me to be totally honest with you, the cards have been awesome. It'd be kind of like, the same thing. Let's say you take DMT or ayahuasca or anything like that, and you take those substances to learn something about yourself. The chaos that ensues in those states can be kind of crazy, although transformational. They become really hard to understand. So using Western methods too. I'm not saying don't take ayahuasca or anything. By all means, do it if you want. I still need to do it at some point. But using the Western system, you're in a more controlled environment, because let's say you just want to study the aspect of like Earth, right? That's it. Or the Earth element. You're able to do that instead of just, I guess, submitting to the chaos of things. All right. We got to take the radio station break. Guys, if we get enough support on the radio station, I know times are hard, so I don't expect it to be this way. Not for a while, but things will change. But if we get enough support for the radio station, at the very least, we won't have to play like the PSA ads and stuff like that. I'm just going to be honest with you. I love radio and I love music, and it's kind of my thing. It's not your fault. It's my fault. But I love music so much that, like, I have to run these ads to pay for the licensing. Just saying. And I have to have the music. Kind of like the way Art Bell was. You remember when they were trying to change Art Bell's radio show, but they didn't want him to play certain bumper songs, and he was like turning down contracts because he couldn't play the music he wanted. I'm kind of the same way. I just don't have I'm not as picky about which songs they are. I like a lot of music. Anyways, I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void live on the Fringe FM. We're kind of getting deeper into the mysteries of the Tattwa cards, and we'll be right back. We'll talk more about it up next.
Don't have to be rich. KTLK, The Fringe FM.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
The truth is out there, and so are we. KTLK, Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Norman T. Balone, assistant janitor.
Yeah?
I am here to inform you that everyone in this unbelievably large advertising agency has been fired.
Oh, no.
Except for you.
Really?
Which means, Mr. Balone, you're now president of this entire unbelievably large advertising agency.
Gee, I don't know much about advertising.
Apparently neither did anyone else around here.
See, I spend most of my time mopping floors and listening to the radio.
Radio, now there's an efficient and economical way to advertise.
Really?
Well, sure, radio costs a fraction of TV.
Ooh.
And radio targets specific customers.
I love radio.
So you'll accept the job.
Boy, it's a big responsibility.
Make up your mind, Balone. This is the chance of a lifetime.
All right, I'll do it.
Splendid. In 3 hours, you will address the stockholders at our annual meeting.
Oh, what'll I say?
You'll explain why this company lost $17 billion last year.
Can I change my mind?
I'm
I
afraid
don't really
not, Mr.
believe
Radio. Red hot because it works. For all the facts, call this station or the Radio Advertising Bureau.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, class. Let's hear what everyone did this weekend. Jill?
Well, I raised my older sister to a big oak tree. It was at least 100 years old. My mom said I must have set a record or something. And then we went down by a stream and perched up on this huge rock and saw all of these little minnows swimming around way below us. And then I rescued my little brother from an evil slug king who was guarding him at the bush fortress. And my sister and I brought him back to our super twig fort for safety. And then we all laid out and told stories until it got dark. And the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Awesome. Where were you, Jill?
Yeah. We went to the forest. It's not that far away. Anyone want to come this weekend?
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week and find the fun, adventurous you. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Bumper stickers are a fun side hustle with low-cost investment that has built-in advertising to attract local customers in parking lots, rallies, gatherings, conventions, venues, and more. You could potentially sell these bumper stickers on consignment to local businesses, tattoo parlors, head shops, or any other independently owned store that might gear toward the fringe. Bumper stickers are great gift-giving ideas for friends and family. Also, a way to wake up your fellow travelers on the path without having to waste energy in tiresome debates. No car? No problem. Bumper stickers will stick to just about anything with a semi-smooth surface. Go to www.justbsme.com and get your bumper stickers today.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Wow. What an intro, Kurt. I miss Kurt's voice. Where the hell is Kurt? What happened to him? He used to stay up night and drink on the show. It used to be fun. We're talking about the Tattwa cards here. Like, I kind of want people to understand why I'm getting into this. You know, most people only, when you talk about these kinds of things, they're only interested in the idea of manifesting stuff. Like, what is this going to do for my real life? I've heard this time and time again. How does this help me practically in the real world? And when you realize that you're the cause of just about every effect of life, and that if you work on the cause, all kinds of stuff will manifest in the real world for you. But I think most people are looking for the quick way to manifest stuff, which is fine. This isn't really about that. This is more about okay. So for people that play video games, imagine the elements. Let's say you open a video game and you're in life, okay? Then you got your little meters. You got your health meter, your heart meter, your intellect meter, your luck meter. You got all these meters down at the bottom of your life. And everybody's kind of born with certain energies and numbers and whatever. This is why I think we're attracted to video games to begin with. Now, the worlds, you have this map. You open this video game, you go into this whole story of consciousness, and then finally the video game opens up these maps. And the first 4 maps are the elements, right? And each place in these elements has kind of a world to explore, and this world corresponds with parts of yourself. All right, there's the symbolism, the meaning, the cosmology, like I said, the mechanics, everything about each element. So you go through these worlds and learn about all this stuff. Now, why the hell would you do that? You're wasting your time. You're not really manifesting anything, but the truth is you are. Just like if you're into just astral travel, period, it's the same thing. When you're getting out of body or astral traveling, you could look at that as the vehicle at which you fast travel through the video game. So whether it's a etheric OBE experience or an astral experience, this is the method to which explore the video games of consciousness. Okay. So you could look at the occult and the Western and Eastern mysteries as a whole different world of exploration. But there's also another level to the game, which is a little bit more chaotic, but a lot more fun, I would say. And a less controlled environment, which is simple meditation, astral travel, and psychedelics. But all these things lead to the same place. The reason why I recommend going to the elements first is because a lot of people have fallen prey or victim to, let's just call it the threshold, the guardians of the threshold. I think Thomas Christopher calls them that, which is basically the guardians of your unconscious, those gatekeepers at the door that don't want you really discovering certain things. But it's not like they're your enemy. They're just doing their job. Because your job is to be just a simple human that's clueless. That's your job. And to ask other simple human people for advice that are just as clueless as you, but might be more articulate than you. So we all just learn from each other's experiences, and then we base our rules and life rules and what we do off of that. But it doesn't answer the question of who you are, where'd you come from, what's this about, why you're here, and all this other stuff. So if you're willing to explore the worlds of the elements, then you're going to unlock things in yourself that are amazing, that you never even knew. So wouldn't it be nice to have tools to explore these things? So like in a video game, you got guns and swords and all this stuff. At this video game, you could use just headphones and HemiSync or a ritual circle or magic tatwas or the tarot cards or whatever, and explore your consciousness this way. Or you can pop some DMT, whatever you want to do, man, and I don't care. Just put my order in for the cards. Cool. It's going to take a while for you to get the cards because I got to print them all out and Here's where this company, I can't find a cheap company to make the cards, and I'm still looking, but this company they're pretty decent. For the quality, they're cheap. But if I want to rush order them, I have to pay double. And that means I have to pay double and then charge you guys like at least $5 more. And I'm not doing that. So just be patient. They'll get to you. Thanks for putting your order in, Sudi. Because when you get them, it's just going to look like, a deck of cards. You'll be like, what the hell am I going to do with these? But once you use these methods of scrying is what it's called. That's what they called it in the Golden Dawn. I hope you guys are ready for this, man. Anyways, let's continue on because he's explaining this a little bit more. All right. So the permutations of the Mahabhutas, or which they become the 25 cards of the Tattwa deck, these then represent the primordial power or yantras or geometrical compositions, blending color and shape to invoke and evoke images. Some brief comments follow about the terminology I preferred to use, the colors of the tatwas, and the geometrical shapes ascribed to the elements. The first rule that I set myself to discard Sanskrit terms as much as possible. I feel this is acceptable as over 100 years of Golden Dawn tradition has embedded the English terms in the Western psyche. So learning all the Sanskrit words probably is, especially if you're a Westerner like me, is a waste of time. Just stick with the elements. The symbols speak for themselves, transculturally, and the simpler the terminology, the better. The only Sanskrit term retained is the tatwa, or the tatwa cards, as this word has become inextricably attached to the elements through common usage. My choice of ether deserves a comment, which has drawn my attention to the older alternative spellings, which include ether or aether, which is A-E-T-H-E-R. And it's also spelled A-T-H-Y-R. Semantics. Doesn't really matter to me. Spirit is also used, or you can even say it's the quintessence, or the fifth element, containing the essence or seeds of the other four elements, a concept first introduced in the Western tradition by Aristotle. None of these terms fully conveys the concept of akasha, or space. Akasha is space which is pregnant with all possibilities. And Akasha would probably be the best English sentence I could compose to sum up Akasha, and that would be inadequate. Ether, from the same Greek root that gives us etheric and ethereal, is not... That's so synchronistic, Bryce. Do you hear what I just said? What you were telling me yesterday about ethereal? So he says ether from the same Greek root that gives us etheric and ethereal is not correct either, but it comes close in the adjectival form. Ethereal, it contains multiple meanings, including light as air, eerily out of the ordinary, and finally lacking mass. Oh, man. So I guess I can show you all these different charts here. Seed of fire. So let me just show you guys this. I have this in the booklet too that you get with the cards, but okay. There's no colors in this thing, unfortunately. So let's say you have the earth card, which this is going to be like violet, and the earth is going to be a gold or yellow square. And then you have the earth seed of water, which will be a water glyph inside the earth symbol. Earth seed of fire, which will be a fire glyph inside the earth symbol. And then earth seed of air, which is, you can see the air glyph inside the earth symbol. And I'm probably saying this wrong. And then earth seed of Akash or ether, which will have the ether symbol inside. When you start out, you're just going to be like scrying with the elements here. Just these. Earth, water, fire, air, and ether. As you go deeper into this system, though, you'll start using the other cards. All right? That's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't want to complicate stuff, which I've already done. You get it, Bryce. Do you remember? I was playing Destiny with Bryce, I think, and he was telling me I don't know if he wants me to talk about this, but he was in the store and some lady walked in and asked for, what did she say it was? Ethereal yellow? Like she couldn't pronounce the word ether right. I just think it's funny because we were talking about that yesterday. All right, so all things considered, including the precedents established by the Golden Dawn, ether is by far the most logical choice out of a bad lot. And I guess that's the word, is the easiest one to use. And discussing the colors and geometrical figures used by the Hindus to designate the tatwas, a good place to start. Might be with the Western tradition and its current practice. Some have claimed that the signs for the elements are derived from the six-pointed star hexagram or Star of David. The hexagram certainly has nothing to do with Judaism and early Kabbalistic studies, as it did not become associated with the Jewish people. And I've told you guys this, the holy hexagram did not become associated with the Jewish people until the 17th century. The star was adopted by the Zionist organization in 1897. The hexagram is found extensively in Indian temples and Islamic mosques. It is used in Christian and Hermetic Kabbalism as a symbol for the 7 planets as shown on this glyph, and I'll show you the glyph. But the hexagram shows the position of the planets in relationship to the Sephirah on the Tree of Life. In India, the hexagram is often associated with Vishnu, the preserver, and the triangle pointed down is a symbol of Prakrit, the universal yoni, and all material creation. The triangle pointed up is Purusha, the silent consciousness behind existence, and the Shatkona, or six-angled figure, or hexagram, is the preferred symbol for the Anahata, or heart center, chakra. And while the triangles pointed up or down represent fire and are present in Manupura, or solar plexus chakra. So, you didn't know that the Eastern systems kind of do the same thing with this. It all kind of goes together. But in the Western system, the downward triangle is water, right? So all 4 elemental symbols make up this hexagram. And this is why when you do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and you say, in the column shines a 6-rayed star. So about me flame the pentagrams, but in the column, or inside me, represents the 6-rayed star. So you got all 4 elements and all of the 7 traditional planets with the sun in the middle. Just like the sun corresponds with that chakra, but also corresponds with Tifereth. So the sun both kind of lands in the same spot on both mystery systems. So it's funny how that works out, right? So after you've mastered the elements, then you have this kind of star to work with as you master the planets. And if you put the Tree of Life on this, you'll see that here, like say down here at the bottom of the pointed triangle is Yesod, where the moon is, Mercury, where Hod is, Venus, where Netzach is. I don't know, Saturn and Mars, it's a little mixed up here. This should be Jupiter and Saturn. I think he's got that wrong, honestly. But Mars is in the right spot. Jupiter for Chokma, Mars for Gabura. And then if it were me, I would put Saturn right here at the Da'ath, right? I think this is a typo, actually. Look at this. He has the symbol of Saturn at the top, but he wrote Jupiter. And he has the Jupiter symbol over here where it belongs, and he wrote Saturn. So I think he messed up in that book. I've done that before. But this is kind of a showing, like especially the tree. It shows the elements. It shows both the Eastern and Western systems coming together and gives us a map to explore ourselves, consciousness, and all of these different energies. Like the video game, right? So when the Shatkona is pulled apart so that the apexes of the triangles are just touching, it is a symbol of Shiva's drum, or the Damaru. The Damaru symbolizes the dissolving of time. The Hermetic alchemical symbols for the elements are formed by the 2 triangles being pulled apart, water and fire. And when they are interlocked, the baseline of each triangle cuts its twin to form earth and air. The 4 elements are then arranged around a pentagram, with the fifth element, the quintessence or ether, at the top. And I'll show you guys this, but you guys have seen this before, right? I'll show it to you anyways. So when you're tracing your, anytime you trace the banishing, you start from earth and then go that way. The banishing earth, right? It is the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram. I used to get confused about, well, why is it a banishing earth pentagram if you're banishing all the elements? Well, you're here on the earth. That's why. Think about it. That's why I look at it. This way I look at it anyways. All right. Moving right along. I hope you're recording this. I strongly suspect the real origin of the alchemical depiction of the elements as variations on the triangle can be tracked back to Plato's Timaeus. In the Timaeus, Plato describes how to construct the elements by putting together several types of triangles. The European tradition of the four elements has important ramifications and cross-cultural connections with the Indian system of indigenous medicine called Ayurveda. Around 400 BC, Hippocrates outlined the doctrine of the four humors, which formed the basis of Western medicine right up to the 17th century. Medieval Europe aligned the four humors with the four elements and produced a type theory of personality which is still useful and being revived by Jungian psychologists with the Myers-Briggs personality profile. In the Middle Ages, you belonged in one of the four categories. And I kind of go through this too. If you get like one of those astrological elemental readings from me, it'll show your personality type in there. So you have sanguine, which is air, airy, social, optimistic, flighty, and fanciful. Then you have choleric, which is fire, which is impulsive, hot-tempered, or a person of action. And then you have phlegmatic, which is water, which is unemotional, laid back, or tolerant. And then you have melancholic, which is earth, which is usually depressed and given to intellectual pursuits. The Greeks are weird, right? Like they put this stuff together like that. The philosophy of the four humoral elements permeated even every facet of European art, science, and literature until the last few centuries. In the year 1600, Shakespeare's Henry V was produced, and an example of the common parlance utilizing the elements may be found in Act 3. Tao, and of the heat of the ginger. The heat of the ginger. It is a beast for Perseus. He is pure air and fire, and the dull elements of earth and water never appear in him, but only in patient stillness while his rider mounts him. He is indeed a horse, and all other jades you may call beasts. William Shakespeare, Henry V, Act 3, Scene 7. I'm not into Shakespeare, though. I think it's nonsense. I've probably lost a few people saying that, but it's not. Shakespeare is just, to me, is like, there's a simpler way to say all this stuff that you're writing about. By 1980, the four elements theories had been thoroughly resurrected as a method for the classification of character and temperament types by Professor David Keirsey of California. It looks like, is that Colorado or California? It's all blurry. Who amplified the earlier work of the Myers. Useful population of this four-element approach to personality typology has also been spread through the work of Tim LaHaye and Florence Literature, with such books as Personality Plus. And both these authors have proliferated the humoral Aristotelian approach among Christian groups, even retaining the original terms of sanguine, choleric, phlegmatic, and melancholic. My opinion is that the resurgence of this 2,000-year-old classification is evidence of its intrinsic value and increases tolerance for individual differences when it's studied. The Indian physicians also started with a four-element classification, but quickly found it more useful to compress it to a triple classification that would include ether. To manage this, they amalgamated the phlegmatic water and melancholic earth into one group called Kapha. Kapha has earth plus water. It, or they, are stable, tolerant, and sluggish, prefers routine, sometimes downright lazy, even catatonic. Kapha subsumes the European category of phlegmatic and melancholic. You see how we as humans, like even back then, we have to like categorize each other, you know. Well, this person is more this or that. Like we have to put each other in categories for some reason. I don't know why. We do that now too, don't we? Even if like there's 20 or 30 people that are all different with different tastes and you know, sexualities, whatever, like we still have to put it in a category so we could understand it. I mean, I get it, I guess, but it's just crazy to me. Pitta is a nasty mix of the natural enemies, water and fire, which produces an energetic, aggressive, boiling, cantankerous personality, or a mover and a shaker. Pitta is roughly equivalent to choleric. Veda is a tango combination of air and ether, cerebral, airy-fairy, twitchy, delicate, and sensitive, natural if nervous, priests. Vata corresponds to sanguine. And after 2,000 years, the Indian Ayurvedic doctors are still practicing with amazing results. That is true, though. There's a lot of people that still get involved with the medicine, too. They're fabulous at sorting out your type and treating disturbances of balance. When Vata, or ether and air combination, gets out of balance, such as too much ether, they become spaced, or literally space bunnies. Alternatively, too much air, and they are flighty with the attention span of a gnat and the solidity of a bag of unbuttered, unsalted popcorn. The Ayurvedic doctor will, among other things, stuff them full of root vegetables, which they hate, and pretty soon they will be grounded and earthed. When kapha, or water and earth, get unbalanced, you're lucky if they ever get out of bed. If you're a pure kapha constitution, you won't even read this book. My teacher says that unbalanced kaphas open books, but put them over their face and go to sleep. As a kapha, I can verify there is some truth in that. However, the remedy can include lots of chilies, fire vegetables to fire them up. Do you guys think that works? I don't think this is a part of stuff that I've never tried. So if I get lazy, if I get like a kapha, I should just eat red chilies? Do you think that's going to change? I mean, it's obviously going to get me moving around if it's too hot. As for pitta imbalance as well, we won't even discuss that. Leave that to the doctor. The keynote in this section is to remind you that the elements are still utilized in the so-called modern world, both in psychology and the survival of a 2,500-year-old Indian medical tradition. The earlier model for the four-element personality classification, sanguine, choleric, phlegmatic, and melancholic, respectively, which is air, fire, water, and earth, works quite well as a character type analysis scheme. I've pointed out that in the hands of the Jungian psychologists, this humoral doctrine survives usefully into the latter quarter of the 20th century. The Ayurvedic delineation of three constitutions by pairing the elements is even more sophisticated, as it covers both psychological types and physical constitutional tendencies, with appropriate diagnosis and remedies to balance each category. Yeah, but you don't have to go to school. Like, you don't have to go to a 10-year school to learn this medicine, though, you know. So he goes on to more Ayurvedic stuff and how it corresponds with the elements and things like that. This is a lot, isn't it? This is why, like, if you're going to use the system and you want to use the tatwas to really dig down into the elements, it'd probably be good to get this book. But it's a lot. So he says, I'd like to briefly review the shapes, as they are now commonly associated with the tatwas. I will dismiss the alchemical Western equivalents. They lack the elemental potency of the tattwa designs. So earth, depicted as a square, all yantras, potent geometric shapes, are to be conceived in 3 dimensions, so the square of earth becomes a cube. Further, exemplifying the solidarity, cohesiveness, stability, and low center of gravity implicit in the concept of earth. Earth is foundational and fundamental, as in the Masons on the square. There you go. So you understand the mystery of the square. It's the Masons. And the square deal, which is the quality of earth in cohesion. Water, the crescent moon. Most ancient civilizations recognized the moon's relationship with the tides and the menstrual cycles. And certainly the Hindus did, but as a shape, the crescent moon has even more interesting associations with water. A drop of water getting ready to fall from a leaf or other foliage assumes a convex-concave appearance just before it turns into a void drop, an ovoid drop. Water filled nearly, but not quite, to the brim of a container assumes a concave shape. That's interesting, right? It does, doesn't it? And as the molecules at the perimeter adhere more to the sides, which is visually discernible. When the glass is filled to the brim and just short of overflowing, the water molecules clump in the center, forming a convex shape, which is an inverted crescent. Water evaporating on a hot stone surface tends to evaporate more on one side than the other, thus tending to become a crescent. The quality of water is contraction. Did you know that? The element of fire, which is a triangle, apex up, and the nature of flame is always to taper to a point, because a flame tapers, right? The quality of fire is to expand upwards, just as a human with burning ambition aspires upward. That's it. No big paragraphs after that. Fire is pretty simple. Air, a circle, really a sphere. It should be noted that a hexagon and a hexagram are also used as symbols of air and Anahata chakras. The circle or sphere is the geometrical shape that has the greatest potential for movement. The wheel or ball, and air always moves in circles or spirals, hence our terms whirlwind, twister, and tornado. So the quality of air is motion. When you guys listen to the path workings that I'm going to release, all of this stuff is in there, by the way. So just taking you through the visions and the path working of the elements, like, it's cool. You'll get to experience pretty much all this stuff during the path working. So ether, an oval or egg, or the Rama Prasad, or riding in nature's finer forces, suggest the oval shape for Akasha, which has the tamatra of sound, and is related to the ovoid shape of the external auditory meatus, or the ear hole. You ever heard anybody call it that? The external auditory meatus, the ear hole. This shows how modest and inhibited a Hindu scholar could be in 1894. The truth is, the most beautiful example of all demonstrating how a symbol in one culture is so potent, it translates easily to another culture. This is the sort of correlation that warms the heart of a Jungian and delights a Freudian. Ether's yantra epitomizes the relationship between a geometrical shape and shows how form can summarize a concept. Ether, or Akasha, is both the container and the womb of all creation, and the egg is Hiranyagarbha, or golden embryo. The other color often associated with water is white, that orbed maiden with white fair laden, whom mortals call the moon. That's by Shelley in The Cloud. But tenderly above the sea hangs white and calm the hunter's moon. That's by G. Whittier, The Eve of Election. Fire red, no comment necessary. Air sky blue, no comment necessary. Ether, indigo, black and violet, all the colors of night space. In summary, the system here presented is not a synthetic New Age invention. It's not New Agey. The Tattwa symbols rest upon the foundation of several thousands of years of Samkhya yoga practice. Western students can also draw on the egregore, the amassed experience of over 100 years' work with the Tattwas by the Golden Dawn magic practitioners. The lesson to be learned from my cursory discussion of Samkhya is, you are not what you think you are. Everything we value as truly us is but a chimerical conglomeration of tatwas, or elements, that eventually, in one life or another, will disassemble, leaving the real us, the silent witness, untouched by suffering, or the Purusha. Our intellect or ego or sense of self, the feelings and memories, personality and character, all are ephemeral hallucinations and evanescent illusions. The real self, the Purusha, never dies, having never been born and never suffers, as it is beyond and behind the world of Prakrit or matter. Oh, how beautiful. You buy that? I have a pepper plant that is 40 months old. Woo, I bet that sucker's hot. You try eating that thing, man. Has anybody tried those? Like, have you tried to take a bite of those things? Good night. Don't do it. All right. So to simplify this a little bit, he says that the Tattwa cards are, let's say, information storage and retrieval devices of amazing potency. They are the primary building blocks from which all magical symbols, sigils, talismans, ciphers, and designs are composed. Each Tattwa is a yantra, or conception instrument. A yantra, Sanskrit, is a geometrical figure used for concentration, ritual, or even as an amulet. The Sanskrit prefix yan means to conceive, or perceive, or imagine, or visualize, and the suffix tra implies an implemental or an implement or tool. So hence, a yantra is a tool for focusing the mind, encouraging clarity of conception, and invoking or evoking elemental forces. The tatwas trigger the psychic layers of our mind through the compressed power of its geometrical shape, the primal colors vibrating forth, and the implied numerical concepts in each shape. So, I want you to visualize these as we go along here, because we've got just a little bit of time left. So, the Tattwa card for Earth, which is a golden square, yellow square, with a purple or violet background. The yellow square stirs up a host of associations on the level, kind of like they say in masonry, or a square deal, or the desert, or the intensity and warmth of the sun, or birth and death, or the phrase dust to dust. Things like stability, security, also beginnings and foundations. The symbol for water, or the crescent, conjures childhood. So you can imagine like a gray or silver crescent, okay? A silver crescent conjures childhood, things like oceans, mysteries, recurrent cyclic activities which wax and wane, wishes, romance, and wonder. See, I like how this is the best way to simplify this stuff. The triangle of fire, the red triangle, educes the eternal triangle, like phrases like third time's a charm or third time's lucky, or things happen in threes, or the nuclear family, or the nuclear family, father, son, child, or father, mother, child, or volcanic eruptions, bonfires, conflagrations, infernos, sex, blood, passion, danger, and warmth. So that symbol of air, the blue circle of air, the blue circle channels reincarnation, recurrence, going around in circles, flights of fancy, completeness, the ring, or rings, or wholeness. And then the oval, or the ether, which is the indigo or black oval shape, which represents space, or phrases like lost, I'm lost in space, or spaced out, or fertility, or eternity, or birth, or infinity, or the stars, or immensity, or creation, or phrases like you hear travel to the stars, or even gods or deities. All this corresponds with the ethers, or the ether. I think Crowley was the only one that actually put the egg in his cards. He put the egg in the Fool card. So, which makes sense, right? Because everything comes from the Fool, right? Fool is the first card. Then you have the Magician. We won't get into the tarot side of this, but the Tattwas are psychic circuit. I can't say this shit. Say this 3 times fast. The Tattwas are psychic circuit boards. Psychic circuit boards. Psychic circuit boards. I can't say it again. That are astrally wired into the unconscious. A reservoir of archetypal feelings in the subconscious or memory or storehouse. The Tattwas are external configurations of internal realities. The Tattwas build a bridge between your conscious mind and the unconscious substrate, which we float upon, as a ship upon the ocean. Another way of expressing this would be to call the Tattwas psychic elevators, which can lift you up or down to the appropriate levels of mental foo. We can map the relationship between the Tattwas and the mental functioning of levels as follows. The earth, or the yellow square, which is the deep unconscious containing the polymorphous sexual libido, the pleasure-seeking without regard to consequences, or the id, and the home of the infatuated twins, Eros and Thanatos. Water, the silver crescent, which is the preconscious dream or astral world, the realm of affect or emotion, particularly in regard to relationships. The red triangle of fire, which is the kingdom of conation or action in the world driven by ambition, a burning desire and motivation. The blue circle of air, the cognitive land of unbridled imagination versus reality testing, logic versus fancy. And ether, the oval, the black oval, the cognitive aspects of lateral thinking and fresh insights leading to new growth and change. That's a lot of stuff, man, just packed into one symbol, isn't it? But this is why, like, when you scry with these symbols and you get all these visions and you're testing visions or writing down stuff, like, all this stuff is going to come to you, you know. How do you think this guy wrote this book? Like, think about it. You cook with those peppers? The name of the pepper plant is Orion. They taste like cherries. Man, that's weird. Didn't Prince supposedly die in the elevator? Yeah, I think so. I think he did. Okay, what do we got here? So integrating the Tattwa decks with the unconscious. So you probably can learn the geometry and colors of the 25 cards and the flashing colors of the Tattwa deck faster than the procedure I'm going to suggest. However, you may not establish the required psychic link with your unconscious. If you follow the schedule I recommend, the Tattwas will become a living reality permanently enshrined within your inner self. It is best to do one Tattwa subset every 48 hours, and after the first 2 subsets, 10 cards. Then they build up quickly, so it pays to review as you go along. Dude, I don't know if I want to get into this. We can get into this next show. Open the deck and extract the 5 cards belonging to Earth, the Tattwa subsets, and these are in evolutionary sequential order. Earth, seed of Earth, Earth, seed of water, Earth, seed of fire. So the Earth card is seed of Earth, Earth, seed of air, and Earth, seed of ether. Taking Earth, seed of Earth, place it under a bright light on a piece of white paper. Gaze into the center of the yellow square until a rim aura is quite pronounced, probably about a minute or 2. Don't hurry and don't strain. Yeah, that's what the flashing colors do too. It'll start to, if you gaze into it enough, it'll start to flash. You'll see like, kind of like, and when I see it, it's like, it kind of looks like lightning around the shape, you know. The flashing color effect can be quite spectacular, with the card even appearing to float off the white paper. When you feel the flashing effect has reached a maximum, remove the card from the paper and gaze gently at the paper, letting the after image develop, and watch the after image until it fades. You have now started the process of unconscious assimilation. Repeat this exercise with every Tattwa subset, which of course consists of 5 cards in each group. And after you complete each subset of 5 cards, turn to the appropriate page of illustrations for whatever and attempt to color the images from your visual memory. It is essential that you do not attempt to integrate more than one Tattwa subset a night. To do so is to run the risk of overloading the unconscious with the resulting resistance emerging. Pretty interesting stuff. We'll go over all these methods. I have some of them in the booklet too, but there's all kinds of different methods of doing this. So one method that the Golden Dawn used that I think is cool is that they would first, breathe and then get into a trance state and then stare at the card. And then as the color began to flash, you could look at the white paper and then you'll see the opposite color, which is just a visual. It's just a visual thing, but you'll see the opposite color shape on the paper, or you can shut your eyes depending on the type of room you're in, if you're in a dark enough room, and you'll see the different color right where your third eye is. And then the idea is to use Carl Jung's active imagination and the magical eye and move through the shape. But keep in mind, you should be in a deep trance state, not just, you can play with it all you want, but for the effectiveness of it, you need to be in a good trance state. And then whatever images start coming to you, which it'll get crazy, right? Almost like I had a dream the other night. I was in a baseball game and someone pegged me right, not in the groin, but right above it in the pelvis area. Just poof, pegged me with a baseball right there in the pubic area. I'm like, what the hell was that about? Those are the kind of visions you might have, but they'll be more kind of corresponding to that element in a sense, Those, you're not going to have that vision. I'm just saying it'll be kind of dreamlike like that, All right, we got to roll out of here. I got to roll out of here. I'll make sure Jess gets on the air and all that stuff, because I think this is our first night of being back on the Fringe FM. But thank you guys for listening every Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays here with us on Lighting the Void. Also, I want to thank all of you that have supported. Like Sudi got a deck of cards, Barefoot. I'm sure all of you, Bryce, have supported. Yeah, we'll get back to where we was. Michael, thank you guys so much. If you want to support, you can. You can join the Patreon, and you'll get access to everything that I'm putting in there, which it already has a bunch of stuff in the store, but you'll get access to all of that if you join the Deep Void. Or you can just donate to the Fringe FM, or you can grab stuff from the store like Tattwa card shirts. And if you can't do any of that stuff and you like the show, podcast, or videos, just share it. Give us a like and review and all of that good stuff. Man, this was kind of a complicated night, right? Anyways. I like studying the elements. It's fun. Love you guys. Night night. Sweet dreams. See you tomorrow night.